that how you pronounce it, Cincotti?
You got it right.
We're supposed to have Becky Kate with us tonight, but unfortunately she got sick, and so she was not able to make it. So tonight, Adam, we have 3 steaks as usual. This is going to be steak 1, steak 2, and steak 3. So let's go ahead, grab a fork, and let's dive in.
Fantastic.
So Adam, the deal is, I know you've watched some of these steak battles, but what it is we try all 3 steaks, and it's 3 different steak seasonings, and basically at the end we determine which steak seasoning we like.
Okay.
So this last weekend, you played the Des Moines Open.
I did.
And you won the MA4 division.
I did. I got my first win.
That was your first win ever? Nice,
Yeah.
nice. How many people were in that division?
We started with 18, but I think 6 folks dropped out because of the heat. It was pretty brutal.
It was insanely hot. I heard that like 20 people, at least 20 people, that dropped out.
That's the number I heard. Yeah.
Now, I've actually had a tournament that had 45 people drop out mid-round.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
That's crazy.
It was actually the opposite way around. It was really wet and cold and rainy and snowy, and it was absolutely miserable.
Yeah, I can imagine that would.
We had one where it was like one division. If they would have just, if he would have just finished, he would have cashed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's too bad.
Yeah. So you won MA4.
Yep.
Do you remember what your round ratings were?
First round was 870 something, 880, close around there. Didn't look at the final ratings, and then my second round was again it was pretty brutal. We were all struggling, so I didn't have quite as good a round, but I was able to hang on. I think I shot like an 850.
Nice. So. Now, what's your player rating?
Well, I took a pretty big hit from some flex starts. I don't get to play very many tournaments, so even one tournament can really tank my rating. But right now I'm an 830 rated player.
All right, so you shot above your rating.
I did, yeah.
So are you done playing MA4 then, or are you going to stick in MA4 for a while?
No, I think I'm going to move on and play MA3 even if MA4 is available. I achieved that goal.
Yeah.
And, now it's time to pursue that next goal and win an MA3. So
nice. All right, well, we've had steak 1. Let's go ahead and dive into steak 2 here.
All right. Some of the juice.
Now, this year, you were also, I guess I don't know what the exact title was, but you and Becky were in charge of all of the volunteers at the Des Moines Challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How many volunteers did you have?
We had over 150 volunteers that were just on our side of things, and then there were another, 50 or 60 volunteers on the UDisc team with Shelby and Henry.
Oh wow!
And
so over 200 people.
Yeah, we had a ton of people, and just to all of you watching, if you volunteered, thank you so much. It was such a great time, and I can't speak highly enough of that team. It was really special to get to do that.
Now, did you have to go out and recruit many of those volunteers, or did they mostly reach out to you?
It was a mix. We had some early folks reach out pretty quickly, and those were some of our real kind of go-to folks that come back every year. We got a lot of help from Jeremy and Angie, who had been doing it for the last few years, and so they kind of hooked us up with that kind of starting group that got us going. Make sure, okay, we know we've got some folks early on. But I have to give the credit. I wish Becky was here, because on the recruiting side, Becky really was. She kept everything organized. She kept everybody in touch, and she really just. We wouldn't have been able to pull it off without all of the pre-work that she did. Leading up to the day.
So, what was the biggest challenge that you guys faced with all of the volunteers?
I think the biggest challenge is it's an early start every day. And when things shift, right, when it gets tough, right, there are people that volunteer thinking it's going to be, that it's not going to be a lot of work, that it's just going to be kind of a lot of fun. And so I think there was some challenge where it's like people kind of had to adjust a little bit, which they all did. I mean, it was amazing to see everybody kind of get through that first day of, wow, this is a lot. I think that was probably the initial challenge of just getting it, one, getting everybody organized, and then two, just throughout the tournament, just keeping everybody engaged, keeping everybody focused on just being professional, and they did it. It was awesome.
So, so what made you want to step up and take over this role?
Well, so I have to say, I wanted to give back to the community. When my wife and I moved here 3 years ago in March of 2020, and if you remember, March of 2020 was when the world just shut down. And we moved here from Texas. I moved here for work, and we didn't know anyone. And I've told this story a few times to people that I've hung out with, but I have lung injuries from my time in the Navy, and so COVID was really scary for me, and so I didn't want to be anywhere indoors, and so I looked up what to do outside in Des Moines. I got like 30 references to disc golf, and I was like, oh man, I used to play disc golf way 10, 15 years ago, and out in the woods with a bunch of hippies, and that was super fun, right? And I just decided, I'm going to buy some new discs and start doing it again. And started coming around and got invited to come out and play Glow, and I just fell in love with this community. I fell in love with the sport, and what it gives to an area, and all that it adds. And it gave me so much, I wanted to give something back. And I really enjoy being able to lead a team. And so I have a background in that. My background's in hospitality and in the military. And so for me, it was kind of an easy choice to step up and try it.
Do you think you're going to do it next year?
I mean, if I'm asked to do it again, I'd love to.
I'm sure Ty will need you, for sure. All right, so we've got steak one, steak two. Let's go ahead and dive into steak three. You may want to cleanse your palate there.
Yep. By the way, for you guys watching, these are, if you ever wondered if they're actually good, they're actually really good steaks. My compliments.
I've been using the pellet grill a lot lately. Mostly out of ease and convenience, because that's what pellet grills are made for. But you definitely do miss a little bit of something with a pellet grill versus like charcoal and whatnot. You miss some of the color, some of the texture, some of the flavor. But they're obviously still good. But yeah, it's I mean, I actually haven't had steak in a while. It might even be the last time I had steak was maybe the last steak battle.
Yeah, with Ty.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm doing a lot of chicken and ribs lately, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching with Ty. I don't know if you know this, but my background being in hospitality, I'm actually a trained chef.
Oh gosh.
And so I can remember Ty talking about the ribs and just kind of snickering to myself just a little bit. Like, there's a lot more ways than just your typical 3, 2, 1. I like you. I like my ribs a little bit. Not just fall off the bone super, just kind of fall apart. And I don't want my ribs to feel like pulled pork, right? So I'll just throw mine on a grill as well, and let them cook and let them rest well, and they get tender pretty nicely.
So last year you ran what was it, the LCS? What's that stand for again?
So LCS is the company that I work for.
Oh, or it was like a charity event.
It was. So I work for a senior living owner-operator, and Alzheimer's is something that is really devastating to anyone who's ever been affected by it, whether that's someone who has the disease or someone who has a loved one with the disease, and it's really a passion of mine to work with the Alzheimer's Association. And so I ran a tournament last year to raise some money and some awareness, and brought some people from my company who had never played disc golf before, and paired them up with folks that were in our community, introducing them to the sport and introducing folks in the community to the work that the Alzheimer's Association does. And so it was really a special thing to do. I plan to do it again. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it done this year. I've had a lot on my plate this year between work and family. My son started kindergarten today, so it's just, had a lot going on. But if I don't get it done this year, it'll definitely be a next year thing for sure.
Now, is that something that you'd be more interested in? Is like getting into running more events?
I really enjoyed it. I think that I would. Again, it's all about finding that balance for me. The fact that my wife, who is amazing and lets me get out as often as I do, is honestly pretty impressive that I'm around as much as I am. If I can again find that balance with work and family, then yeah, I'd love to love to do more tournaments and more events.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I feel like disc golf misses, is people that are willing to do tournament directing, and especially something like that where it's, those are more fun type events. There's a lot more that goes into them. And I've always felt like the best tournaments are people that really get a focus on like one or two events. Like someone like me who runs, 30, 40 events a year, like I don't get to give as much time to each event as I, would like. Whereas like someone like you or Ty or whoever, they only have to focus on one event. They're able to create a great event. Like in Frank Sademeyer in Atlantic, he can just focus on the Coca-Cola Classic, and make it a great event. And I think that's something that really I think disc golf should be. For me, it's part of my job. It's how I have to make a living. But I don't feel like those events are, not to my own horn. Like I feel like my events are well ran, but maybe they're not as fun as something like, your type of events or whatever, where it's a little bit more laid back and you're able to put a lot more time into those kind of events. But I do feel like it's something that the disc golf world and the community needs, is more people that are interested in running events.
Yeah.
I was actually just talking with Josh Onimus. He's running Shady Oaks this weekend. It's his first event. And he's going through some of the trials and tribulations of running an event, dealing with people and personalities, and, and sometimes that's not always the most fun. But it's great to see new people stepping up, people running leagues, Andrew Klein and Chris Ossemeyer and whoever, people starting to run more stuff.
Yeah.
Because one, it gives me something to play.
Yeah, that's nice.
Because I always feel like I shouldn't run my own events. If I really want to have a high quality event, or I shouldn't play my own events.
Right.
That like if I'm running the event, I shouldn't play. So I really don't play. There's every few and far between I might. A lot of times I only do it because there's not a lot of people signed up at the time or whatever, and then I feel like it's a little bit easier to manage. But if it's a full field, then I'm not trying to run, because there's a lot of stuff you need to do while people are playing, and all the kind of behind the scenes stuff that no one really sees that should get done, which makes one event like run smoother than another event.
Sure.
Or if you have help, right? Like when we first started Titan, Joe and I both ran the events, but then we got to a point where we felt like one of us could play, so we'd take turns of who could play and who couldn't play. But we still had one person that didn't run. But it's nice to see people like you and Ty and Josh and Chris and Andrew and whoever like step up and start to run events, because that's really something the community needs. You know, and unfortunately, sometimes personalities make that like not very enjoyable. But
Yeah, I mean, there's you're always going to deal with personalities in politics, right? Like
yeah,
that's always going to be
yeah,
the way it is in any organization, in any community. You know,
yeah,
you're dealing with people,
yeah,
right? And people have their own opinions, and they have their structure and how they think about how they want to do things. I can say for me, when I kind of came in with that like blank slate when I did the Alzheimer's event
hmm,
last year, and so it was really just okay, how do I do this, right? And folks like Ryan Mapus and Amanda Beery and all the folks from the club that really just said, you know what, hey, we're gonna hold your hand through this,
yeah,
right? And you know, and I think that it feels really good to have that kind of support from the club. I think that's the fact that the club is so involved here in Des Moines
hmm,
is just awesome. Um, you know, having a really solid community like that
yeah,
just I think makes all the difference,
yeah,
and it makes it possible for people like me,
yeah,
to who are I've been playing disc golf recreationally, going back, 10, 15 years, like I said. But I didn't even know what the PDGA was until like 2 years ago.
yeah,
Right? And I didn't know that like tournaments and flight number, when I started seeing numbers on discs, I was like, what do these numbers mean? I had to look all that up. And, so I was like a little baby, just kind of being,
yeah,
trying to figure out how to walk. So, I think that in the future, as I shape what I think an event should look like and could look like, I'm sure that I'll put my own stamp on it,
hmm,
right? Having a hospitality background,
right,
having
right,
a military background, having
yeah.
this kind of
Yeah,
the leadership.
each you can definitely feel, and sometimes you get a good sense of like how this person or that person runs an event.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's just nice to see, and yeah, our community's great. I follow a lot of other disc golf communities on Facebook. Obviously, I don't live there, so I don't really know how they are. But ours is, for the most part, pretty low drama. You know, or if there is, it gets squashed pretty quickly. Usually, people are pretty quick to back somebody if somebody's saying something, kind of outlandish.
Sure.
Um, and yeah, it's a great community, and it's I've been a part of 3 different communities now, with between the Quad Cities and Cedar Rapids
Mm-hmm.
and here, and I love being here. It's great. It's growing. It's pretty cool to see. Anyway, we've tried all 3 steaks. Yeah. This was steak 1,
Mm-hmm.
steak 2, steak 3. How would you rank them in order?
It's tough, man. They're all really good. Um, I think I'd probably go. I'm gonna say I think steak 1 or steak 3,
Mm-hmm.
then 1, and then 2, and I think the complexity of flavors in 1 and 3 is what won me over,
Mm-hmm.
and really like 1 and 3 are really close. 2 is great. I think that 2 is just it's a lot of pepper, a lot of salt. It's very simple, which is really good. I get a lot of the smoke,
Mm-hmm.
but with 3 and with 1, I get that like just the different layers of flavor in the rub, which I think is really great.
I thought about using your rub and seeing if
Sneaking
you would,
it in
yeah, and seeing
there.
but I thought you would be able to guess it.
I probably would have picked that one out. I use that one pretty often and really like that one. That's a good blend that I put together.
So this first steak seasoning is one that I picked up at the Iowa State Fair at the was that the Varied Industries building.
Oh, cool.
It's Kelowna Historical Village Robust Ribeye. And that was your favorite. It's possible I might have gotten 1 and 3 mixed up. But,
Okay. Yeah, this. So I think you're right. So I think this is 3 because I like the dill here. I definitely get that like the dill and the herbal flavor coming off a 3, and that's
yeah, and now that I just smelled that one, I think that is definitely.
Okay.
So the first one then is this Jack Daniel's steak seasoning.
all right.
Um, I just got this Jack Daniel's chicken rub,
Yeah.
and I put it on some chicken seasoning, and I really liked it.
Nice.
So I thought I'd try the steak seasoning. And, actually, for me, it was my least favorite.
Okay.
For me, I would have gone probably the opposite of you. I would have gone 2, 3, 1.
Okay.
But, everybody has different taste buds. But, yeah, the first one is the Jack Daniel's steak seasoning. The second one is the Ultimate Steak and Roast Rub,
Yeah.
which is usually everybody's favorite, or it's definitely my favorite. It's the one we use every time.
Right.
But sometimes it's not. And then the third one was probably this one then.
Yeah.
This Kelowna Historical Village seasoning. I think this is, made in Kelowna, Iowa. So something...
Local. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, some Iowa seasoning. I bought a few steak seasonings at the Iowa State Fair, so
Nice.
the next couple steak battles will definitely be one of those. So anyway,
Well, don't get me wrong. This is great. Like I really like
Yeah,
this one. I think for me having worked in the restaurant industry for as long as I did before doing what I do now, I like something that's a little different, a little funky, and I'm not surprised that I picked out something that has dill in it because dill to me is one of those like sneaky, spicy, sneaky herbs that people don't think to use. Super versatile. It goes with a lot of different things, and so I use it a lot in cooking.
so
as
were
well,
you a chef then for a while?
I was, yeah. I actually I started in the hospitality industry when I was 13, and worked. I've done just about every job you can do in a restaurant. When I got out of the Navy, I went to culinary school at the Culinary Institute of America in New York. Worked as a chef and a general manager of a restaurant, and just got when we started having kids, I realized that I was scheduled for 80 hours a week as a GM. So I was working 100+ hour weeks pretty routinely. And you're just never not working, and that just I wasn't seeing my family, and so I had to make a change. So
I used to in high school. I wanted to be a chef for a while, but then I took like one class. I took safety and sanitation. It's like the first class you take or something
absolutely,
like that.
yep.
And I was just like, I just want to cook stuff. And so instantly, I just was like, yeah, this is not for me. And then
I
switched to something else.
I fell in love with cooking again when I left the industry.
Yeah.
I loved a lot about the restaurant world, but it is brutal.
Yeah.
It's really brutal, and it's so hard to like advance past just that like basic level. Like you get to if you're a solid line cook, and you can maybe get to that like sous chef level, that's where most people top out. It's really hard to go beyond that. And I mean, and at that level, you're making like $15, $16 an hour. Yeah, that's.
And I'd heard that like a lot of times chefs like they don't even get to cook stuff anymore. You're basically a manager. And just like, well, that's not really why you became a chef. You became a chef to cook. So anyway, this was Steak Battle, episode 11. I think I'm going to still do some more this year. I got a few people I want to reach out to. So be on the lookout for those. I'll be at Worlds next week.
Oh,
so
awesome.
nothing next week, but I think I'm going to try to do one when I get back. So
Right on.
all right, guys, we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.